So everybody, if you're watching, this is our next installment of Meet the Music. And in front of me, this is Jordan. And Jordan's going to be with us today talking all things music, all things voice, and hopefully we'll learn a thing or two as well. So we start all of our Meet the Musics the same way. Do you want to tell us where music all started for you and your kind of musical journey to this point? Start from the beginning.
My musical journey actually started kind of midway through school, but then I didn't really do anything properly until I went to Leeds College of Music, where I met the lovely Emma. I did a few kind of choirs and things like that in school, but I didn't really do much performing. But I always knew I wanted to go into singing, so when it came to choosing what to do with my life, it was either be a midwife or be a singer. So I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to just go for it because I want to. And I got accepted into Leeds College of Music. So that's where it all started, really.
So did you kind of have bands? I know the answer, but did you like get into a lot of like, were you singing a lot on your own? Were you doing stuff in bands? Kind of you like to do?
When I got to uni, I was like, I want to be in every band possible. I was really excited about working with other musicians. And I met a really good friend of mine called Chris, and we started a band together, and it went from there. And all through university and afterwards, we've been in various different bands. We've done a few brand changes and a few name changes, but we've still worked together, which is, I think a really important thing about being a musician is the whole networking side. And even if it don't feel like networking, the people that you're friends with are actually the people that you're going to be in the industry with. So it's important to make those connections.
So in terms of you kind of becoming sort of more interested in the voice and stuff like that, when did that kind of start, and what steps did you take to kind of get to the point where you are now, being like a vocal coach and stuff like that?
So I think the main kind of thing that sparked it off for me was when we were in our performance in context lessons. Context, I don't know what I said then. But yeah, those lessons, when we started learning a bit more about the singing theory and about skills and how the voice works, and a bit more about the technique and all the inner workings of the voice, and I started to think more about the anatomy of the voice and what's happening inside your throat. It started kind of spurring things in my mind to think, I want to know everything about the voice and how it works and what muscle works where and how that affects this and what breathing, and it just all kind of went in a cog in my head. Like when you're watching a crime documentary and you're hearing about all these extra layers and you're like, what happens next? It was a bit like that for me. I was like, what's next on the list? So I've spent a lot of time kind of doing my own research, really, along with my vocal training at university. I've spent a lot of time doing my own research and finding out exactly what the voice is about, and I'm due to actually go and study a master's soon to find out even more, but I think I've forgotten what I was even asked now.
So that just about the voice, you answered perfectly.
Oh,
so
good.
The masters that you're doing, where's that going to be? Because that's something quite special, that, isn't it?
So I am going to Brisbane in Australia to study with two doctors who are doctors in the voice, called Irene Bartlett and Ron Morris, and they have dedicated their professional studies towards focusing on the way that the voice works and different methods that we can use. One in particular is the accent method, if anybody wants to have a look into that. And they are pretty much at the top of their game, and they're going to be the leaders of my course, and it's called Vocal Pedagogy, but it's focused on the anatomy of the voice. And if somebody doesn't know what anatomy means, that is the makeup, like how your voice is made, like the muscles, the ligaments, the cartilage, and all that kind of thing. Bit more kind of clinical.
Yeah. So do you, during that sort of that course and that masters, do you go into kind of do you have people come in to sing and you kind of analyze the things that they're doing right or wrong, or does that come into that, or is it more kind of, as you say, just the clinical sort of workings of the the voice.
No, you've got it nail on the head. So I think it's very kind of peer related. So the other people on my course will all be vocal coaches already, and we will all have to kind of analyze and coach each other. And part of my module is to actually mark their final piece. So they'll have a recital at the end, and I will have to be, as part of my assignment, I will have to be marking it and give a sufficient thing to go against the criteria. And it's just all about kind of peer feedback.
Wow, that's gonna be. Are you gonna document any of that kind of experience doing it? Because I think that would be so interesting for people to kind of you on your journey and stuff. That would be amazing.
I didn't think of it, but maybe I will. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
Yeah, oh, it sounds, especially being in Australia as well, that'll be absolutely incredible.
I know, more of this sun, and I look like a diva right now, but I every time the sun's there, I'm out. So
got to get out there while we can in England, haven't we? But Australia will be sunny every day, won't it? So I've got questions here from some of our participants that come to our sessions, like musicians and singers and do their own stuff. And one of the first questions that I've got, which is a really interesting one, somebody's asked, how can you develop your lower vocal range? Have you got any tips for that?
Yeah, so I use a method called Primal Sounds, which I did learn from one of my tutors at Elcon. And the ideology behind that is we can use different sounds that we would relate to on like a primal level, like when we were a baby, or animal noises and things like that, to try and kind of strengthen our voice in that way. And there are things that you can do to kind of help the strength in the lower range. So for example, if you're going down to a low note and you start to kind of get a bit thin and the note kind of gets a bit missed off, what's sometimes a good thing to do is to tense your tummy muscles a little bit, give it a bit more support, use a bit of twang at the back of your throat, and imagine that you're speaking it, because we often tend to kind of talk in quite a low register anyway. So doing all of those things together can sometimes just help us get a little bit more strength in the lower end. I was doing a Billie Eilish song, and is it Ocean Eyes? So she goes, Ocean Eyes.
Yeah.
That one there, she goes really quite far down, doesn't she? So if we're to do that as an example, Ocean Eyes, we would open the vowel a little bit to like an I. It's like an I. We'd tense our tummy muscles a little bit, use a bit of twang, and get down there. Imagine that we're speaking it. Eyes. And it felt a lot more stronger then, didn't it? So you can give that a go at home.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really interesting way of kind of, because I know, like, myself, when I sing, I've got quite a, like, I'd like to call it like a cat screechy voice. I can sing quite high up. But the lower notes, I would never have thought to kind of treat it as like a speaking thing. Because I think sometimes I would avoid lower notes, because I'm thinking, oh, I can't hit that note. Whereas actually thinking of it a different way, like, oh, it's just speak it low, like you'd speak it. That's a really interesting way of kind of tricking yourself into just going, this isn't as hard as you think it is.
Yeah, I like to try and, think of singing as not just like a black and white thing. I think everybody's slightly different, and everything, someone's gonna relate to what's the word I'm thinking of, like an example more than one other person is. So I just try and do anything, but that's something that I found really helped with myself to get lower notes. So, just try anything yourself. Little things like moving your tongue around can make a big difference. Your anatomy is a big thing in your voice.
Yeah. Wow, cool. I'm sure that'll be really helpful. What's another one I've got here? The best place to look after your voice.
Sorry, I think you broke up then a bit.
The best place to look after your voice?
So, absolutely every singer should be practicing steaming. And by steaming, I mean, the DIY version could be a head over a bowl of hot water. If you're young, please do this supervised by adults.
Yes, of course.
Or, you can buy, I've got one in there, but I could maybe run and get it at the end and show people, or send a link or something. Um, you can buy handheld steamers that go just over your mouth and your nose, and you put hot water in, and what that does is it just instantly hydrates your voice. It gets rid of any mucus or catarrh or phlegmy bits that can, if you have to cough it up, it can sometimes cause a bit of damage to your voice. So it's better to steam it out, if that makes sense. Or if you don't have access to any of those things, if you get like a nice hot shower and just breathe the steam in, that's something that's really important for singers to be doing. Never ever take what they call vocal zones or anything like that that's going to numb your throat, because it just masks a problem. If you're unable to sing for any reason, then you either need to see a specialist or you need to rest your voice. Don't be taking anything that's going to just mask the problem, because that can potentially cause damage in the long run.
Right.
But just stay hydrated. I don't think there's really much else to think of in that area. Some people say dairy, don't they? But I eat dairy, and I think it's just subjective.
I think it just depends on the day. Like sometimes you can eat a bit of chocolate and it's not really effective. Then it's just one of them things. I think it's just
people live their life, don't they? So I think steaming's a good one because it doesn't really cost anything. It's hot water.
Yeah.
And there's no limit to how many times, as long as you are breathing some air.
Yeah.
I think you're all right to kind of do that. At the times that I might do it more is if I've got a cold or if I've got a gig coming up for the first hour before my gig, I might be just steaming intermittently for that hour just to give my voice a bit of a boost.
Okay, cool. So in terms of like, as you say, as you went on to yourself there about doing gigs and stuff like that, a lot of people kind of discussing this need to warm up the voice. And I've kind of heard from loads of different people like, oh, you should do this warm up, you should warm up for this amount of time, or you don't need to warm up. Some people just don't need to warm up. We've had a couple of questions here about how to warm up your voice and what kind of warm up do I need to do. And someone's asked, do I need to warm up and why? But this is the thing, it's such a subject. There's always different answers to this.
It is. I'm one of those annoying people that doesn't ever have to warm up.
Right.
Like, I'll wake up and after maybe half an hour, my voice is pretty much good to go. But I know that some people, like my friend of mine, for example, it can take her up to a few hours just to come round, and then she has to warm up for about an hour, and then her voice is ready. So it is completely subjective. But if you feel like you might be one of those people, it's never going to harm you to warm up. I think, if anything, it probably harm you not to. So maybe on a cautionary side, it would be good just to do a quick little warm up before. Things like octave jumps or sirens, like a nice swell up in an octave. I think the major scale is quite a nice one, just quite simple. But I normally do up to 5 of the major scale and swap between. So like 1 1 2 1 1 2 3 2 1.
Yeah.
Some people are, and kind of get faster as you get higher. Anything that's getting your mouth moving, your tongue, because it's not only your voice that needs warming up. Sometimes your mouth and the muscles in your mouth and things like that, you need to warm up. And something that I do with every lesson before anybody starts is just give your face a bit of a massage and your neck and your throat, because if you're carrying any tension there, it's going to carry it in your voice as well. So could maybe put that into a bit of practice. Something that might be interesting for some people is I went to get a massage on my throat because I was getting a bit of tension in my throat, and he said something that I thought was really interesting. He said how footballers, athletes, swimmers, all these kind of people all have to take regular maintenance like massages and stuff for their sport. And he said essentially singers are athletes because we're using our muscles to the highest potential when we're using them. So he was saying, we've got to look after our voice in the same way. So just doing little things like steaming and massaging it. If you think of yourself as an athlete looking after your muscles, that just popped in my head then.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool way of looking at it, because I think sometimes with singing, I think people treat it more of like work, like thing that people just do, and people don't see it, as you say, as like an athletic kind of, people, some of the most famous, richest people in the world are musicians that use the voices. But that's such a, yeah, you got to value your voice because it's one of those things that you're born with, isn't it? And not a lot of people have that gift of being able to sing. So
No.
steaming. So anyone watching, steaming, do it.
Steam.
Steam, do it. It's important.
Very
Um,
important.
so more about the kind of performance side of things. There's a lot of performances, a lot of stuff with various outfits. We have a lot of young people that maybe would like to maybe do a bit more singing, or would maybe want to, in a couple of years when they get a bit older, might want to get up and perform on their own. But as most creatives can be, it's kind of, I know that sometimes people can be a bit anxious about that and be a bit kind of can doubt yourself and not really want to, especially when it comes to original music as well and sharing like your own songs.
Oh yeah.
Have you got any kind of tips for people kind of wanting to take that leap and kind of ways to kind of get around having that kind of doubt about yourself and put yourself out there?
I think in terms of this, confidence is a big key just to your voice at all. And it comes from within, and it can be a bit annoying to kind of overcome. And I myself know that I've been absolutely terrified, and that I was saying when I went at school I didn't dare sing, and I did it when I went to uni. It's because I was so scared. I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I think first steps, a good thing to do is to maybe just record yourself when you're at home by yourself, and then listen back to it. And I think it's a journey that you've got to go on for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to be your own worst critique. So I think if you can overcome watching yourself on a video, then you can overcome then maybe doing it in front of mum and dad.
Yeah.
And then the next step maybe brothers and sisters, because they'll be even meaner.
Yeah.
And if you don't have them, a cousin or something.
Yeah.
And just build it up. Just go at your own pace. Some people are ready to do it straight away. Some people take a bit of time. I like to sometimes, say to my students, why don't you have a look online and find performers that you like and see little tips from what they've done. Like it might be a hand gesture that you like or a facial expression, and then you can take that on yourself, and then it's not necessarily coming from you.
Yeah.
Because then, it can be quite hard to think of things to do while you're there.
Yeah.
So sometimes just taking those ideas off someone else just takes the edge off a little bit and helps to get a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that's one of the things I remember not having my guitar anymore. It was kind of like, I've got these long things at the side of my shoulders. What do you do with them?
Yeah, because like this, they're moving, aren't they? But if you play piano or whatever other instrument, but when you're there, if you're standing just still like this, it can look really awkward.
Yeah, and I think you actively feel more awkward as well. You kind of become aware of these big long things, and you're like, right, okay, let's do something. But as you say, watching your favourite artists and kind of taking from what they do, that's really cool.
I just find just a little hand movement, a little face gesture can go a long way.
Yeah, it's emotive, isn't it? It gets people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always use you as an example in that All I Want video, because you're barely moving, but you make me like bawl. I cry my eyes out when I watch that because you believe it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's emotive, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as you say, it takes time, and just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean that you can't get there in your own time, and not kind of a competition with other people. Your own journey, and everyone's such.
No, you can take inspiration off other people for sure, but don't compare yourself to other people. I think that's a bad thing, bad habit to get into.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so we're coming to the end now. So I thought this is a question from me because I was interested, and I was talking the other day about voices and stuff. So if you were to kind of give us some of your like favourite voices, because since that you're a vocal coach and stuff like that, have you got anyone that you'd recommend people to check out in terms of like amazing voices or artists that you think people should go and check out?
I'm a little bit cliche in my voice, angels that I love. My number one at the moment is just Ariana Grande. I just think she's really fab. I absolutely love her. If you want to go a bit older, I don't know whether you guys will even know these people, because sometimes I say a reference and the students look at me like, who's that? Because I'm a bit old now, we've got to accept it. But you know, like Mariah Carey, all the old divas, Whitney Houston. But yeah, that guy we were listening to yesterday, what's his name?
um, Avery Wilson, that's his name.
Avery Wilson. Oh my goodness, he's got a great voice. There's someone that I really like the voice of called Fatai. Do you know what I mean?
Is she from like New Zealand or something?
Yeah, she's got a great voice. Her voice is really kind of flexible and
Yeah. Oh, does she do her own stuff, or is that more covers, or?
yeah, she does her own stuff.
All right, cool.
She did a really good 90s R&B medley.
Love that.
That was just really fab. I was
And is that
living my
her
life.
socials? Has she got that on Facebook or something? Or?
Yeah, I think it's spelled Fatai.
All right,
Fatai.
okay. Check that out.
Yeah,
It's
I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Do you know what? I like Shawn Mendes. I like pop music, so
oh,
I
pop
just love
music.
pop.
I like that. Kids watching know that I'm an absolute fiend for pop music. Ariana Grande, they all love Ariana Grande as well, and Billie Eilish. A lot of people like Billie Eilish.
Oh, I love Billie as well. I think she's great. She's got a really nice kind of. She's got sticks to her one thing and she owns it. Do you know what I mean?
She really does, and I think she's kind of sort of breaking the mold a bit in terms of what it means to be a young pop singer. It's kind of like, you know what, I'm wearing what I want, I'm doing what I want, I'm saying what I want. She's not kind of just this picture perfect like little robot that sits there and sings all the high notes. She's just doing what she wants, isn't she?
Yeah, and as well like the mood of the music, because I know you guys don't know me, but Emma does, and I'm a moody songwriter, and it's
Great.
really nice to just listen to some moody songs.
Yeah. And I know her brothers, but they're only little babies, aren't they? They're only young. They're only like 18, 19.
Yeah, I think she was 15 when she released the first song, wasn't she?
Yeah,
So
it's crazy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what her next kind of thing will be, and if she'll kind of evolve into something a bit different or what. Interesting.
yeah, it's nice to watch. I think like Gaga did it a bit, didn't she? She went through different avenues and stuff.
I love Lady Gaga. Have you heard
Yeah.
that song? Have you heard is it Stupid Love? Have you heard it?
No, I don't think I have.
Check it out. She
Okay.
is she's just a bit I love her. Lady Gaga is another one that I think is just out of this world.
She
Um
is great.
right, so I think that's us. Thank
But
you
it's
so
been
much
fab.
for
Thank you for
taking
all.
time out of your sunny day to come and talk to us about the voice and music and stuff. It's been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you so much for your amazing, fabulous questions.
I'm sure they'll get a lot from it. So in terms of maybe if some of the people watching might want to get in touch with yourself about maybe getting lessons with you or getting some I don't know. Do you want to kind of shout about the stuff that you have out there and where they can find you?
Yeah, if you search Jordan Hodson vocal coach, I think it is on Facebook. You can contact me on there. Just give me a message. All my details are on there for lessons. Obviously, with all this going on, I am offering remote lessons, so it could be a really nice thing to do if you're a bit bored at home. Just get your voice going and get some more techniques on the go.
Yeah. 100% recommend it if you're watching this and you want to sing a bit more. Definitely.
I'm doing lots of riffs at the moment, breaking some down, so it'd be good fun if anybody wants to help give that a go. I'm up for the challenge.
And people out there that are watching, I know who are the riffers out there. So, but thank you so much, Jordan, for that. That was absolutely awesome.
Oh, thanks, Emma. It's been fab.